I think it's tremendous. I think one of the things that a lot of people don't fully understand about being in the commercial real estate or, the apartment multifamily space is that you are essentially buying a business, whether it's operating well and stable or not. You're buying a mini business in some ways, and it's not just investing in real estate. There's a lot of other things that go into it, especially as you scale up into the properties that support full-time staff and management companies and many other things that go into it. The larger and larger you get, the more of an actual business it is, and a ecosystem and an environment it is, and it takes a little bit more of a different understanding than a 10-unit building, or even single family home that you just buy on the side. So I think it's very interesting to hear that you were basically already running a business or managing a business in a certain way before you came over. How important or how powerful do you think that experience was to your ability to move over full time into the multifamily space?
Yeah, for me, it was huge because, our company, we're a lead sponsor. So we kind of do everything, right? We're not just one piece of the pie, which in multifamily, the thing I love about it, it is a team sport. So if you don't have experience, you can get started by underwriting or maybe finding a deal or bringing some capital to the deal, which is great. But we kind of wanted to do the whole thing, including managing the asset. And so my experience in management and operations was huge. Essentially we were a property management company for golf courses. So a lot of the things that we do in our day-to-day business, property management companies do in their day-to-day business. It's just a different industry, right? So I have insights as far as how property management companies work, what they like to see, some of the areas where they need to improve on. And I've utilized that experience to help with getting our assets, going in the right direction and working with the property management team to, turn the properties around probably quicker and more efficiently.
So what are some of the things that, you're working as a, property manager for golf courses that you think, I'm sure you've spoken to other people that do multifamily syndications that maybe didn't have the same experience. Is there anything that you've seen that you think, from working in that space for so many years that other people don't, that haven't worked in the same space? Or do you think it's just giving you a better level of experience and understanding that's just helpful?
I'm sure we do some things that are different, but I think it's just that level of understanding and not having to learn it first. I mean, follow up is the biggest thing that I see out there. A lot of people understand what the next steps should be, but then they just expect the property management company to execute on that after you have, a 5-minute conversation on a phone call with them. Well, there's a lot of things that go on in a day-to-day operation and nothing goes perfectly, right? There's always a wrench thrown into it. And so you have to follow up. You have to give clear direction. You've got to follow up with the team and you've got to hold them accountable. So we like building systems to hold people accountable and reporting systems so they get back to us on it, because the devil's in the details and it's all in the follow up. If you don't follow up with them, you expect it to be done. 3 months later, you find out it's not done. Well, now you're 3 months behind on whatever that plan was. So that's the biggest thing. And then holding people accountable. You need to build systems in there to be able to hold them accountable. We do things like shopper reports, making sure that the communication to potential residents is professional, it's clear, it's adding value to the residents before they even step foot on site, versus a very quick email saying, hey, book an appointment if you're interested. I mean, if you see some of the responses you get from some of the apartment buildings, it's unprofessional, it's not formatted correctly, and you can really separate yourself by doing those small things.
So it's interesting you bring that up, because I think we'd be the first to admit that sometimes you give too much rope to the manager to hang themselves with, and it's your own fault. You got to look in the mirror at the end of the day. But I think one of the hard things that people struggle with, and I want to, ask you how you overcome this, or, how do you, teaching an old dog new tricks, right? I think that, that's a big mistake, or people look at it and say, okay, I want them to do it my way, but they do it this way. And how do I integrate that seamlessly without making it think that I'm creating a whole nother structure for them that they may not be okay with? Because, follow-up is key on almost anything you do, right? And when I was a real estate agent and, when I was in finance, I always told, all you got to do to be successful at your job is just call people back, right? Just pay attention to them, because nobody's doing it, right? You call once, it's over, it's done with, on to the next. But can you talk to that, or how you teach an old dog new tricks per se to get people to, comply with, this is what we want? Because, we're trying different things every day to fine tune that, to make us as efficient as possible. But I'd like to hear from someone else that took that experience from what they did and integrated it immediately. You probably had more success out of the box than most.
Yeah, it's certainly not an easy process for sure. And I think this goes all the way back to selecting the right property management company if you have that option. Now, we're in a market where there's multiple property management companies that are very successful and do a good job. If you're in some of these tertiary markets, you may be very limited to the type of property management companies that you have. And that's where, it really is hard to teach an old dog new tricks. But, from the very beginning, we're very upfront to say, hey, look, we're more of a hands-on type of owner. After the value add stage, after we see how you work, would definitely give you a little bit more rope. But we are someone that wants to introduce new technologies, new systems into place to help improve the property and be more efficient. We do not want to be the same as your property down the street. We want to be better. And so we're going to implement some systems of ours to help improve those systems that they currently have. So I think that's the conversation up front. But, you've got to remember, and this is the tough part, you own the building and we syndicate. So we have investors that we have to report to. So we have even more of a, financial responsibility to the property. And I think they have to understand that. Now, there is that, line you have to toe, because you want the property management company to respect each other and respect you, and vice versa, and work as hard as they can. But I think ultimately they've got to know, look, this is your property, you own it, this is how we want to run it. But I think a lot of those conversations happen while you're hiring the property management company.
So do you come in with any additional systems, right? Because here's, I think, some of the struggles we've had is, especially when you use third-party management, they've got to create their own systems to service all their different clients. And one of the reasons we've always said we would love to have management in-house is we have our own systems we would love to have that our managers would be a part of. And it's tough to have a manager change their systems to fit each client, because that's just not a way to scale a business. How do you then come in with, say, hey, these are the things we want to get done, and you get them on board with implementing some of your ideas, but not overly changing how they do business?
Yeah, there's give and take there for sure, right? I mean, if you're asking them to completely change their reporting system, that's probably not going to work. But again, this happens a lot before we even hired this property management company. So we asked for their reports and we asked them, hey, are you willing to customize some of these things to show X, Y, and Z? And they were willing, and they've been able to do it. So it's really about asking about things up front, right? Being proactive rather than reactive. So don't wait to see the reports and then say, hey, this isn't what I wanted to see. Ask for them in advance if you can, and they'll send you over a sample report, and you can go through them and say, okay, this is kind of what I like to see. I mean, I think I always go back to being an entrepreneur is doing all the work up front for a hopeful good ending on the back end for a good payday or a successful business, right? And that's what it is about being an entrepreneur. You're doing a lot of things for free up front and spending a lot of time up front, but those are the people that are going to be the most successful, that are asking for things and being proactive on the front end, so that you don't have to wait an additional 2 or 3 months to kind of go through all the, troubles and switching reports over and things like that while the property is purchased. Because when you're buying value add multifamily, timing is crucial, right? If your plan is 18 months and now COVID, for an example, has knocked you back 2 months, now your business plan is 2 months back. If you don't have streamlined systems already, and that pushes you back another 3 months, this is how people can get pretty far behind. You're 5 to 6 months behind right off the bat. So we do as much pre-work as possible and talking to the property manager to vet them.